Okay, cool. So our first session today, then, we're going to have a look at why we need a website, the role that that plays in our business, and start to have a think about some of the items on our kind of mental laundry list, if you will, that we need to be kind of considering and putting into place if we're going to start to build, hopefully, a nice, robust, engaging platform for yourself online that provides, a really good shop window for your businesses. Just a little about me. I'm conscious, actually, having introduced everyone else during our session just now. I did nothing to introduce myself, so my apologies for that. I'm Ben. I run So Very Creative in Northampton. We are a full-service digital and creative marketing agency, and we work on a whole range of different things, from podcasts and graphic design to building refits. And crucially, as we're going to talk about today, we do a lot of work with our clients developing kind of cost-effective web solutions for business. There's a lots of businesses that come to us for anything from portfolio sites to online ticketing platforms, even down to simple kind of holding pages and stuff. So we've got a lot of experience working with clients of different sizes, from kind of big kind of SMEs with kind of 200 employees down to kind of one-man operations as well, getting them online and stuff as well. So hopefully we can share a little of that experience with you today. In terms of what we're looking to try and get out of our first session this morning, obviously the first thing we want to try and understand by the end of it and get a good grasp of is understanding the role a website kind of plays in our marketing mix overall in 2022. Obviously, the idea of having a website for yourself isn't a new thing anymore. It's not 1995. This is something that is now kind of a fundamental part of building a business online. So we're going to kind of have a look at the role that plays, understand some of the fundamental kind of building blocks from a kind of a technical and an operational point of view that will enable you to make a success of that site. In doing so, we're going to try and introduce a few tools and packages that you guys might want to investigate and look at implementing into your own sites in the future that we think might be of use. And ultimately, hopefully, by the end of this first session, start to think about what it is that we want our own businesses to get out of our websites and what that actually looks like kind of in real terms, I guess. I mean, the first thing to consider is that I get a lot of businesses that come to me, especially small businesses, that say, I've been building a business out of my Instagram page and taking DMs for orders and stuff, and that's been going great. I've been able to, turn a side hustle into a business. Do I really need a website and stuff, And we say to people, in that kind of situation, as great as your social media profiles might be, as prolific as your address book might be, ultimately there's still limitations to those resources and how effective they can be to you as a business, and that actually owning and operating your own website that falls completely under your kind of control and remit is something that actually offers businesses a whole range of kind of advantages and benefits that just can't be achieved on a Facebook page for the sake of arguments. So the first thing to consider when we look at why we need a website is simple credibility. When we look at user behavior online, people are incredibly savvy these days, especially over the last 2 years, where even that last remaining segment of online users who are maybe a little bit reluctant to engage with businesses online, liked to go to a bricks and mortar premises rather than buying their stuff on the internet. Even those users have been converted largely now to people who are a lot more kind of au fait in the digital realm. So as such, businesses are very savvy and looking for kind of ways to differentiate between all of this whole new range of options that they've got in front of them. And honestly, a website, even as we've put here, a very simple, well put together one, instantly elevates you above competitors who are maybe operating on with no website, or maybe taking that methodology of operating within a social media page like a Facebook or something like that. Second thing to consider is that obviously visibility is going to be crucial for you guys when it comes to actually getting your business in front of people and starting to hopefully kind of capitalize on these giant numbers of people that are using the internet every day. As we put here, it's 63,000 searches going into Google every single second of the day. And I mean, that is a frightening amount of traffic on a day-to-day basis that are people ultimately looking for businesses, looking for products and services that you could be supplying. Without without a website, ultimately, you guys are never going to be able to capitalize on that potential interest and start to reach, the customers and the users that you might actually be looking to try and find. And ultimately, those businesses that are looking to try and find you as well. People are searching online for textiles manufacturers or sustainable fashion wear brands, stuff like that. Actually, without a website, you're missing the opportunity to position yourself in front of all of that search traffic, and see the benefits of that. We put a note here that says, while your Facebook traffic and activity is great within Facebook and will really help you with kind of play the algorithm over there, ultimately what happens within your kind of Facebook page doesn't really make a difference to your SEO standing, other than make your page visible and returned within search results. In terms of actually maximizing the number of potential users you could be driving through and selling products to, then yeah, not having a website is going to really stand you in kind of bad stead, as it were, in terms of not being able to ultimately get in front of the people that you want to. Next thing to consider is that obviously a website gives you the opportunity to present your brand and your business in exactly the way that you want to. Taking ownership of a website and crafting something yourself allows you to make use of a whole range of different things, from custom functionality, specific looks, colors, imagery, to customize that experience visually and present your business and your brand in a way that ultimately, the places like Facebook and Instagram and stuff just aren't able to do. I've put an example up here of my own website and social and Instagram page, and you can see the difference between the two in terms of how that brand can be presented, the range of content that you can make available for people, how you highlight particular areas of your site that's of interest, the depth of information that you're able to provide to your users is all something that can be drastically improved and expanded upon within the confines of your own website. As great and as straightforward as things like social media is for being able to get up and running, get the ball rolling, and very quickly start to connect with people, there are distinct limitations in terms of the functionality, the customization, and ultimately the kind of user experience that you're able to offer as a result of confining yourself within ultimately someone else's ecosystem. As we alluded to, obviously, that extends from a visual point of view in terms of how you can present your business and how you engage with people. That kind of plays out when it comes to functionality for users as well. Again, over the years, to take the example of Instagram, that's developed significantly from what was a simple photo sharing app. That's now become a place where people can share photos, watch videos, live stream to the world, buy products within that app as well. It's become a much more fully fledged place for people to spend their time. But again, there are distinct limitations to the kind of interactions that people can have with you in that framework. So for instance, businesses that are looking to offer things like virtual tours, online booking, full e-commerce, product customization, all of those kind of really cool, engaging custom bits of functionality that are great within a website, just aren't available to people otherwise. So in terms of being able to offer, an enhanced level of kind of usability and an enhanced experience to your users, then again, developing your own website and taking control of that gives you the ability to do that in a really straightforward way. Similarly, when it comes to the content that you're pushing into your website, having your own property that you can make use of day to day and put information into gives you a significantly greater level of control and kind of autonomy as to what goes in there. I use this example all the time, but I've got a client who spent a lot of time just after Christmas putting together some product demonstration videos that they wanted to share on social media. And within 30 seconds of that video going up, the automated intelligence within Instagram Instagram had detected a little couple of seconds snippet of some music playing on a radio in the background and immediately yanked that video from Instagram as being a kind of a copyright violation and stuff like that. Where you're working within someone else's ecosystem, if you will, you're always going to be kind of held hostage to a degree by things like the content policies and community guidelines and stuff within that particular environment. So again, if you've got a place within your own website where someone's not going to be kind of constantly policing what you're writing and taking stuff down or creating issues for engagement for yourself, then again, take the opportunity to do that and make sure that when it comes to the messaging you're putting out there, that you guys are the one completely in control of that, and you're not going to have kind of someone blowing the whistle on it later on. Likewise, we always say to people, building your website, building your presence, I should say, within somewhere like social media is very much kind of akin to that old adage of building your house on kind of shifting sands. There are so many kind of bits of information that feed the algorithms within social media, and so many changes to those algorithms on a regular basis that, actually maintaining your visibility and your presence to people is a really difficult thing to do long term, and it's going to require kind of a significant investment of time long term just to feed ultimately Instagram and Facebook to keep singling those guys out, to keep kind of feeding their business model, is going to require you guys to put significant amounts of kind of time and effort in, when a change in that algorithm overnight could instantly mean that 50% of your traffic, 50% of your customers, 50% of your revenue could instantly disappear, and there's been so many cautionary tales over the years of businesses that had been using that platform really effectively to reach people and to sell their products, found that a simple change in the way those overall ecosystems worked and changes in the algorithm instantly tanked their business, because they just weren't reaching people in the same way anymore. And to do so, they were having to spend significant amounts of money on sponsored posts, Facebook advertising and stuff to drive the same levels of kind of visibility and sales coming through those platforms. And when you then start kind of shifting the financial, the way the financials are all arranged behind it as well to meet that, it kind of becomes a situation of diminishing returns for you guys. So again, having a website that you can kind of take complete ownership of kind of future-proofs yourself against that to a degree, and enables you guys to be able to just keep sticking to what you're doing, keep generating the content and pushing stuff into your own website, knowing that over time that will hopefully grow and prove to be a much more stable, significant source of visitors, of inquiries and of sales for you guys, than something that's a little more ephemeral than social media. So obviously we've kind of trashed social media a little bit there in terms of its presence and its comparison to having your own website. So I normally go through these points with people, and the first thing they say to me is, well, should I still be on social media, Ben? And honestly, the answer is absolutely yes. We're not telling people that you shouldn't be trying to build an audience and you shouldn't be trying to reach people on social media. But honestly, what we tend to say to people is that social media will be a much more effective driver of traffic to your website than it will be an effective replacement for your website. It shouldn't be ultimately the only place that people can find or engage with you. And as we've hopefully outlined over that initial kind of set of slides there, operating in that way, we think puts you guys at a distinct advantage when it comes to trying to reach new customers and trying to ultimately sell products through our websites. So ultimately, what we would want to kind of move on to then now is having a bit of a think about what the role of our website is and ultimately what it does for us as a business. And as we've put at the bottom here, the primary thing to take away is that we always try and get our clients thinking about the fact that a website should ultimately be kind of a one-stop destination for customers, and crucially, of course, potential customers for your business, that kind of sits at the core of all of your digital and real-world marketing activity, performing a whole different range of functions, both for you as a business and for your users that are visiting that website and spending time on it. So from a customer point of view, the first purpose that a website really does is informs them. It tells them exactly who you are as a business, what your story is, the kind of products that you offer, and really just gives people an idea why they've landed on your website, who you are as a business, and what it is that you are kind of doing day to day. Ideally, what you want to try and do, having attracted that initial attention and engaged people to come to the website, obviously, ideally, what we want to do is present them with engaging, interesting content that encourages them to stick around and find out a little bit more. So examples of the work that you are doing day to day. Maybe if you've got the time and resources to have blogs talking about things like company history, or some of the processes that you go through and stuff like that. Content that will be of interest and relevance to the people that are visiting your website, and hopefully provide them some value and some interest in kind of taking the next step and reaching back out to you in the future. Obviously, ideally, a website provides a number of different opportunities for you to educate your visitors, whether that be through the use of blogs, resources, templates and materials that people can kind of download and make use of in their own day-to-day. Video content, if you've got the capacity and the resources to be able to put content like that together, is another great way of kind of educating people about yourself, your business, the sector that you work in. And the other great thing that a website does do at a glance is kind of reassure visitors as well. We've talked a lot in some of our ongoing week-to-week webinars with businesses about the importance of the kind of peer review part of the buying process in 2022. When people are looking online now, increasingly visits to things like Trustpilot, Google My Business reviews, checking out Facebook reviews of products and stuff like that are all becoming a really important step in what we describe as that buying journey of getting people from an initial point of contact on your website to actually spending money and buying products from you. And so as a result, obviously, if you've got a way in your website of sharing those reviews, testimonials and things like that, it's another great way of reassuring visitors about your presence as a business, validating the fact that you guys are a trustworthy, reputable, credible business to be engaging with, and again, hopefully play another part in driving inquiries and sales coming through. From a business point of view, of course, as well, websites are a really useful tool in terms of providing a whole range of different kind of touch points for us from the other side. Obviously, the first thing that a website will hopefully be doing is generating inquiries for you guys. And that can be contact forms coming through the site. That can be the live chat functionality that is becoming increasingly popular for people, or even kind of simple phone calls, which you can also track through the website as well. So, that first kind of really important purpose that it's going to do is, like I say, get the phone ringing and hopefully get people asking questions about business and the products that you are selling day to day. The next thing, obviously, we want our business, our websites to be doing, hopefully, is ultimately generating sales. We've talked about the importance of brand visibility and educating and informing people, and that's great. But ultimately, as businesses, what we're looking to do is make money. Let's be real. So the ability to have kind of a shop window where people can very easily, very quickly buy your products, and ultimately, with the systems that are in place at the moment for e-commerce, some of which we're going to have a look at in our 11:30 session. Ultimately, that's cash straight in the bank the same day, if not the next day, for you guys in a lot of cases. So it's a great avenue of kind of passive cash coming into the business on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, over time, if you've got the capacity and the resources to be able to develop the kind of engaging content that we've talked about, blogs, FAQs, testimonials, examples of the work that you do and the projects that you work on, ultimately, over time, what that will do is help you to kind of enhance your reputation over time and really demonstrate to anybody that's landing on the website, this is a business with loads of great experience that do excellent work, and can absolutely help you with the thing that I'm looking for. So again, I always think about a website as kind of a bit of a virtual shopkeeper that's going to answer any inquiries coming in with a bit of an unspoken, how can I help, and hopefully provide some really useful kind of information on your behalf, so that, if you're not physically stood in front of someone's still going to hopefully leave that encounter with you and your business with a good understanding of who you are, your kind of credibility and your experience, and then hopefully the impetus to go on and reach out to you as well. The other thing, of course, that the website will do over time is to give you a really good kind of feel for who it is that's engaging with you and who your actual kind of audience is and stuff. Over time, things like Google Analytics will give you a really clear understanding of the kind of users that are visiting your website, how they are interacting with your content, and ultimately how you can kind of begin to tailor your kind of front end experience based on that. Your analytics and understanding more about your user behavior will give you a really good kind of basis to start to tailor some of your digital marketing activity moving forward. And again, using some of the tools that we're going to cover between my session 11:30 and the session that Zaid's running as well, will give you guys some really interesting tools to be able to really drill down and start to get a better feel for how people are interacting and using your website on a day-to-day basis as well. So in terms of kind of moving forward, obviously, hopefully at this point in our hypothetical situation, obviously, if a business is established that they are going to need to start to get a website online for themselves, obviously there is something of kind of a laundry list that even a fairly straightforward website project is going to need in terms of kind of constituent parts to that, and some tools and packages that will really help you make the most of it. So for the second half of these slides, what I thought we'd do is have a look through the various aspects of kind of that laundry list and give you a feel for exactly what it is that we need to be kind of looking at and considering as we start to kind of build out a presence for ourselves online. Now, obviously, when it came to website development previously, there were, up until even 10 years ago, there were two main real options open to people when it came to getting a website online for themselves. There was kind of a DIY approach, very much cheap and cheerful, as I've put here, where businesses could get something online with very low cost, very low skills, but ultimately very low quality. And it's amazing, even in 2022, how many of those kind of hand-built HTML websites I still come across on the day-to-day basis that people kind of built in 2001, 2002 using, something like Dreamweaver or some very kind of antiquated way of building websites that have just been kind of left online somehow, like these weird ghost ships over the last kind of 20 years. Obviously, the alternative to that at the time was to bring in an outside developer, sometimes a friend of a friend that could help you out, but quite often a much more expensive and time-consuming route if you engage with kind of web development professionals, especially kind of larger agencies, as they take considerably more kind of time and manpower to deliver what was at the time fairly kind of complex functionality relative to what the internet was actually able of delivering at the time. Obviously, over recent years, that equation has kind of completely shifted, and the rise of cloud computing has been one of the kind of core drivers of that in terms of lowering the costs and making it significantly easier to begin kind of deploying web projects even at scale fairly easily. And at the same time, obviously, the technology has become significantly easier. Obviously, as with any industry, the tech industry realized really quickly that once they'd sold all of the products and the services they could to all of the early adopters and the tech companies, they kind of ran out of people to sell to. And actually, the smaller end of the market, SMEs, one-man bands, startups and stuff, actually found themselves both priced out and quite often kind of skilled out of the market, if you will, to engage with some of those products required, a real kind of core understanding of some of the key principles of kind of coding and development and stuff like that. And the tech companies reacted to that, and over the years has made even the process of deploying a cloud server with a content delivery network and a fully fresh install of WordPress as simple as literally clicking your mouse 5 or 6 times. It's become significantly easier for businesses to start working in these areas without the same level of kind of technical understanding or infrastructure and investment to be able to do so. And fast forward to the last 2 or 3 years, and there's been a real explosion in what we call these no-code options for businesses as well, where people can literally get to grips with kind of drag and drop interfaces and then start building a web presence for themselves with zero technical knowledge or experience at all. So in terms of the kind of the core items that you guys are going to want to make sure you have got on your to-do list when it comes to kind of launching a new site for the first time, obviously the core of everything that you're going to want to get right away is going to be your domain, also known as a URL or website address. You guys will come across these and click these 100 times a day. And ultimately, this will be the place that people will be able to find your business when they're looking for you kind of online or typing the address in. So we always say to people, as a general rule of thumb, obviously looking for something featuring the brand name. If not an exact match for the brand name is the way to go. Make it very obvious and straightforward for people. Make it short and concise if you can. There's nothing worse I see than these really long, Ben's Finest American Import Candies and Popcorn.com or something. When you get these examples of really long, convoluted URLs, they're really irritating to type. And from a user point of view, sometimes, obviously, as we allude to in the second note down, they can be difficult to remember. If you've got a URL string that's 5 or 6 words, actually that can be a bit of a pest for some people to try and remember even which way around they kind of go and how it all works. So make it short and concise, make it memorable. We always say to people, try and avoid hyphens if you can. That's not a great look, and from a SEO perspective isn't ideal. And if you've got the budget and the ability to do so, we always say to people, try and pick up the variants if you can as well. So maybe buy the .com and the .co.uk, so that just make sure that you're kind of future-proofing yourself and making sure that, if you're the next hot sustainable fashion wear brand, that someone isn't going to potentially pick up a variant of your website that makes it really easy to kind of spoof your users and potentially divert sales and interest away from you. So definitely bear those in mind when you are looking for a new domain. There are numerous places that you can pick up domains from: 123reg, Ionos, Google Domains. Places like GoDaddy, some of them have got a fairly mixed reputation in terms of the kind of the security that they've got in place and the IP reputations that they operate as well. Sometimes if a company is operating a range of IP addresses, and a significant chunk of those IP addresses are flagged for, say, inappropriate or adult content, as an example, that blights GoDaddy all the time, then actually you can be kind of tarred by kind of association, if you will, and your own domain credibility can end up suffering sometimes from being in the same place as some of those other more irreputable places as well. So honestly, in terms of being really straightforward and having a good reputation, Google Domains is a fairly good place to start when it comes to registering and administering your domains for the first time. Obviously, the next thing we're going to need to have a think about is a platform to put it on and a place to build your website. Obviously, our 11:30 session is going to drill down into a few of these examples in a little bit more detail. But, some of these examples you may have heard of already, including things like WordPress, Shopify, Squarespace, Wix. I mean, these are all examples of fairly well-known kind of off-the-shelf products. But obviously, that also doesn't mention, if you go down the custom development route, that, there are innumerable multiple languages and coding environments that those developers will work within to create your website. But ultimately, yes, whether you are getting a developer to make the decision or whether you are physically going to be responsible for launching the sites yourself and developing the sites yourself, then yeah, you're going to need to make a decision on where is going to physically kind of house that site. And kind of built into that equation, the other thing that you're going to need to be thinking about is hosting. Now, hosting, generally refers to a server where your website lives. So your website, as it kind of sits on a server, is basically a set of folders with kind of documents inside each of them, filled with lines and lines of code, all of which users connect to when they visit your website, is decoded from those instructions into what appears as your website on the front end. And that's how that kind of exchange works. Now, in the old days, it used to be that, you would physically have a space on a server somewhere. And the BT Tower in London was always famously one of the big data centers where essentially if you had a website hosted, it was probably hosted there for a while. But obviously, there are limitations to that in terms of the capabilities of those servers and how many people can be dialing in. And obviously, over time, it was kind of replaced by cloud-based servers, where obviously you've got clusters of servers all over the world, all running essentially virtual servers, to mean that businesses, such as yourselves, SMEs, are able to very cheaply take advantage of some pretty well-powered, servers with good specifications to run fairly complex sites at a fraction of the cost that you guys used to have to incur to do that. Now, when it comes to hosting, a lot of the off-the-shelf packages will take care of that for you. So if you're going into somewhere like Squarespace or even, God help us, Wix, then all of your kind of hosting as such will be taken care of as part of your deal with them. And essentially all you'll ever see is kind of an interface as you interact with that on the back end of your website. Packages like WordPress can be generally purchased on a server ready to go. So again, platforms like Ionos, 123reg, all of these kind of third-party hosting providers will have options for you to be able to kind of essentially take the delivery of what's known as a self-hosted solution, which is a WordPress install flashed onto a server box ready to go for you, so that it's set up and delivered to you as a kind of a standalone product. And kind of spurred by the popularity of products like that, a lot of the much more kind of serious enterprise level hosting companies, Volta being a good example that I use on a day-to-day basis, are now offering really quite detailed, complex server builds straight off the shelf. So you can have a server spun out with an operating environment installed on it, with all of your security and backups and stuff, in literally half a dozen clicks for $10 a month, working with Volta and stuff. So it's become, over the years, significantly easier for you guys to be able to access those services, spin out a good quality server for yourself, and ultimately get your website environment flashed onto that server and underway as soon as possible. Now, built into that, another area we always encourage businesses to be thinking about, if they can, is what they call a content delivery network. And this has become increasingly important over the years as Google has become more and more reliant on page speeds as a way of determining which are the most important websites and which are the websites it wants to prioritize in search results. Ultimately, Google wants to give its visitors the best possible experience, and one of the key components they feel is, well, we want the websites that we show them to load as fast as possible. So as from a business point of view, it's really crucial for you guys to be able to try and keep your websites as lean as possible and loading as fast as possible when somebody visits that website. Now, as you can see from this diagram on the left, in the old model where people were dialing into kind of a single server, every time someone makes that connection and dials up, benspopcorn.com, my computer has to have a conversation with that server at the other end and ask it for all of the images, all of the text, all of the style sheets to help me reassemble the website on my screen. That's kind of a costly process, kind of a time inefficient process, especially if I'm interacting with a business on the other side of the world and I've got to download all of that information, say from New Zealand. That's going to have a really long load time while I transfer all of that data. So what a content delivery network does is utilizing this network of cloud servers that are all over the world. It distributes copies of core parts of your website, such as the style sheets, instructions on how the site kind of operates and loads, maybe some of the kind of the preloader images and what the site thinks are kind of key pieces of content. It distributes those all over the world onto different cloud servers, so that when someone in New Zealand, say, looks for sustainable fashion wear brand and lands on my business website, actually the majority of the content that it's going to load is going to load from a local copy on the content delivery network, potentially, say, Australia. Therefore, in that instance, the load time is going to be significantly lower and your page speed is going to be much better for users on the other end and for Google when it comes to trying to assess how fast your site is. So when you guys are looking at hosting options, if you've got the option to do so, we always recommend adding on a content delivery network option. And generally, depending on who you are purchasing your hosting through, that's something that can usually be added on for a couple of dollars a month tops. So it's something that we always recommend people be thinking about, especially if you're going to be running potentially large e-commerce sites with lots of inventory, lots of images, lots of information. Something that helps to trim down that experience for users and keep you with a really tight load speed will be really useful. Next thing, we always encourage people to make sure they've got in place for their websites, as a matter of course, is what's known as an SSL license. Now, an SSL license is essentially an additional layer of security that you can apply to your website that gives you a little bit of extra protection for both yourself as a business and for your visitors that are coming through. What it does is it completely encrypts all of the traffic and the data that's being exchanged between your users and the server, and as a result prevents any attempts to kind of divert, steal, modify that data accordingly. Obviously, there's a range of different information being exchanged day to day online that would fall under that remit. Things like login credentials. If you're an online e-commerce store, then things like customer account details would fall under that particular description. Obviously, it goes without saying, credit card transactions and bank information, personal information. This is all stuff that has become increasingly important for you guys to safeguard over the years, especially with the advent of the GDPR legislation and the fines that go with it. So really, really important to make sure that you've got an SSL license put in place on the site and you've got that layer of protection for you and your visitors. Obviously, it's not just a practical step anymore either. Obviously, it's great to have that protection on your site and then to make sure that you've got that peace of mind for visitors. But at the same time, not having an SSL in place is also now creating issues for businesses elsewhere. So for one, Google is actively punishing websites that don't have an SSL license in place and are actively pushing those businesses down search results pages. It's also flagging up in the browsers. So when if you search for benspopcorn.com, which I keep using, I think maybe I'm hungry, that's why I'm using that example. If it comes up in search results and I haven't got an SSL license in place, Google will now display a warning that says, this site could be compromised. We can't verify the security of this website, which is obviously a major red flag for any users that are potentially finding your site for the first time. And obviously, it creates practical problems for visitors that are trying to get on. Google Chrome is a great example that you may have come across times where Google Chrome will say, hold on, this site isn't secure. We're not going to load this to you. And it takes a couple of clicks to find your way through all of those warnings to actually get to the website that you're looking for. I might do that if it's a website that I know is fine and that I've visited before. But generally, a lot of users, especially ones that are visiting you for the first time, if they come across that, the first thing that they're going to do is go back to Google and look for a different search result. So making sure that you've got this license in place is going to create, is going to solve a whole range of different problems for you guys, kind of at the stroke of a mouse, if you will. So again, SSL license, really important part of the puzzle. And linked to that, something that Zaid, I believe, is covering possibly as we speak in the advanced sessions, there's a package called Cloudflare that we recommend businesses sign up for and take advantage of as well. Now, Cloudflare, it offers a range of security tools to help you keep your business websites kind of safe, secure, and prevent any kind of malicious activity from taking place on it. Now, it offers a whole range of products to you in terms of offering you the ability to manage your domains. Signing up for a free account on Cloudflare will actually allow you to take advantage of a free SSL license, which will save you 30, 40 quid a year. But it also puts in place a range of other security measures as well, such as scanning for automated traffic coming into your website, so bots, crawlers, malicious scripts. It protects you against what's known as a denial of service attack, where sometimes websites get overwhelmed with traffic at the same time with the express intention of knocking that site offline and overwhelming the server. In the event of that happening, Cloudflare is able to spot that behavior early and put measures in place to stop the website from falling over and keep everything online 100% of the time. Cloudflare offers a really good content delivery network, as we talked about a moment ago. So obviously, again, one package here, signing up at Cloudflare, will give you the ability to add on a range of these tools to your website in one go. So yeah, it could well be really useful for you. And the other thing that it does is it offers the ability to do image optimization on all of the images within your website as well, which again can really help to reduce your page load speeds and improve your SEO standing for timings as well. So there is various levels available within Cloudflare, but we say to people all the time, certainly to begin with, if you are starting to make your way in terms of getting a website online for the first time, the free package is going to offer you all of the functionality that you're going to need to start with. And as we say, even that package comes with a free SSL license as well. So it's certainly one worth kind of checking out and investigating right from the off. Obviously, if you're going to be taking payments online, and if you're going to be selling products, then you're going to want to have some kind of a payment gateway account set up somewhere. There are a few providers out there in the world, but generally we tend to find that it'll come down to Stripe and PayPal seem to have the market fairly well sewn up between them, both of which you can get into very easily and integrate with most web platforms literally seamlessly at this point. Certainly Stripe is a very light touch in terms of how it installs and integrates with your website. So again, making sure that you've got some kind of an account set up with one of these payment gateway providers, link it to your business bank account, obviously, as well. And again, you're going to be set up right away to start generating revenue and taking cash through the website right away. One thing that's become increasingly important to users over the last 5 years has been live chat on websites as well. I was reading a survey recently, and of respondents that had responded to this survey, something like 65% of them had said that actually these days they expect live chat to be in place on a website when they land on it, especially if it's in an e-commerce setting. You know, the rationale almost being, you know, well, we're here to give you our money, so I really want an answer first, you know. And so over time, users have become increasingly expectant of that kind of functionality to be there. So there's lots of tools available to you guys as a business that will be able to help you integrate that and make the most of it right away. Two examples right off the bat that we've worked with clients with recently include Talk and HubSpot. Now, both of these work in a fairly similar way in terms of how they integrate and work within their websites. But broadly speaking, these are both no-code options. Talk is a completely free package. You can find it at talk.to, TAWK.to. That's a free package that you can install onto essentially almost any website at this point. They keep adding new integrations all the time. The WordPress one in particular is completely seamless. And it delivers messages through to your mobile phone handsets, which is really useful as well. In terms of being kind of convenient, you haven't got to be logged into a laptop window or something all day to be able to make use of it. And of course, what it does do from a user point of view is give them a really great responsive touch point where they can ask questions, get the answers to the information that they need. And hopefully, again, you can use that over time to become a really important part of the sales funnel. Certainly where we've introduced it with clients who are dealing in kind of big ticket options, big ticket items, I should say. We've got a client who sell specialist cleaning materials and equipment, some of which goes kind of £5,000–10,000 per sale. In that instance, users are very accustomed to wanting to know the answers to their questions if they're about to spend £10,000 on a piece of equipment. But what we did find was that as a result of kind of introducing that and giving people a very quick way of getting the information they need, giving you a very early opportunity to start to forge a relationship with your potential customers as well, they found that it was increased their on-page inquiries and inquiries through the website by something like 80% over the space of 6 months. So it can be a really crucial driver of sales and inquiries coming into the business as well. Next thing to mention, if you haven't registered for a Google account already, we always recommend that it's one of the first things that businesses do as part of any kind of new website build process. Obviously, we've mentioned Google Analytics and Google GMB, which stands for Google My Business there, but that's just one of a range of different kind of packages and tools that you'll be able to plug into and take advantage of as website owners as you start that process. So obviously, the 4 that I've given us examples here. Google Analytics is a free package that gives you really good user intelligence and data on who's using your website, how they're using your website. Google My Business, registering for that enables you to be found in map searches, take ownership of the business listing section that appears on search engine results pages on the right-hand side, allows people to leave reviews of the business, which obviously we've talked about being a really important part of the buyer journey as well. And then obviously at a slightly more technically advanced level, there's also a couple of other really useful tools available to you as well, including the Google Keyword tool, where you can interrogate and do kind of live searches on Google search data to find out what people are searching for, how many people are searching for it, where they're searching for it, and hopefully enable you to start identifying trends and keywords that you can kind of match up to your business. And obviously the ability to plug in direct to the Google Search Console enables you to kind of make sure your site is kind of compliant with Google to the maximum, you know, make sure all the pages are correctly indexed, make sure the bots, the Google crawlers can get into everything that they need, and ultimately give you another kind of tick in that SEO box when it comes to how Google judges and assesses your site to be performing. With one eye on the time, I think we've still got a couple of minutes just to run through our remaining slides here. Next thing we encourage businesses to be thinking about early days, if they can be, is some kind of an emailing platform as well. Obviously, in the age of social media, people say to us all the time, you know, do we still need to be doing email marketing? And honestly, we say to people all the time that, yeah, there is still significant benefit from running targeted, regular email campaigns day to day. It can be a great source of kind of passive traffic coming into the website. And as we put on the bottom here, you know, particularly if you're running an e-commerce operation, then cart abandonment issues and stuff like that is a perfect way of, again, maximizing sales and increasing the number of touch points that you have with your users all the way through that buying journey. And to that end, obviously, one thing that we do encourage businesses to also be thinking about right from the off when it comes to a website is ultimately where you're going to store all of this information and start to kind of make some sense of it. CRM system may not be something that you are already thinking about at the moment, but we encourage people to think about having some kind of a central repository for all this data where you can record all your customer inquiries, sales, email activity, social media interaction, all of those kind of touch points that over time will hopefully give you a really clear and good understanding of who your audience is, how they're interacting with you at the moment. And hopefully if you can, take the time to look at that data and extrapolate it and marry it up to the work that you're doing, give you a good feel for, what's working at the moment in terms of your digital marketing, and, what you could be doing more to drive more traffic to the site, get more out of the visitors when they're on the site, and hopefully generate more sales for you guys moving forward. As we say, if we're doing it correctly, over time, our website will grow to become kind of a one-stop hub and destination for all of the digital marketing activity that we're doing. It's the place that we want our social traffic to end up at. It's the place that we want people to arrive at, having searched for something on Google, somewhere that they can find and connect with our social channels, become part of our email system, buy our products, and from our perspective as a business, be the place where we kind of onboard those individuals and get them into our CRM and sales funnels to start making more of them as a potential user of our business as well day to day. So with that in mind, obviously I'll skip forward. I'm going to leave my contact information as part of the slides at the end of all of these sessions, but I'll just for the time being knock off the screen share for a moment and just throw it open as we reach the end of this first particular session, just to see if anyone's got any immediate questions that they wanted to ask now or pop into the chat for me to pick up offline or yeah.
Ben, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Up until now, I've been thinking that someone else will build the website for us.
Okay.
But these, you say these days it's becoming increasingly easier to do it yourself.
Absolutely.
But once you've done it yourself, do you then hand it over to a hoster that then takes it on and hosts it and...
No, generally that will be one and the same process, to be honest. If you go down the route of setting up a site for yourself, then generally when you let's use the example of GoDaddy, which isn't a great example, but it's a name that everybody knows. So I'll use that as a very visible example. If you go to GoDaddy and look for their self-hosted WordPress options as an example, you can literally sign up for a product that at the end of that checkout process spins out a server, sends you the link to log in and create your website from some templates for the first time. And ultimately, that hosting is in place right from the off. Generally, you'll need hosting to be in place to start that build process. But yeah, as I say, generally, there's lots and lots of products available kind of off the shelf now where you can immediately get to work and never even have to particularly think about the hosting, to be honest. Certainly some of the options we're going to have a look at in the session in a few minutes' time, are kind of click and play, and you won't particularly ever need to really think about it.
Because I was thinking if I can get onto one of these websites and sort of throw together some ideas or an example of a website, then pass it over. We do currently have a website and it's hosted by someone, and we're quite high up on the Google search list.
Okay.
On various searches, which is good. But I'm presuming that it's whoever's currently hosting it has been working away at getting us up the Google search.
Absolutely, yeah. And one thing I would definitely say is, as part of that process of launching a new site, if you've got an established site already that's got a good SEO profile, definitely take the time to speak to your developer. And if kind of budget and connections permits, I would definitely advise touching base with an SEO consultant as well to make sure that that process of moving the site from old to new is properly managed. Because obviously what you can do sometimes is my about page on my current website might just be benswebsite.com/about. When it moves to the new website, it might be benswebsite.com/about us. In Google's mind, it's going to try and serve the old page /about, because that domain, that particular address has got a track history. The problem then comes if people click on the link, the domain might have moved on to the new website, but the bit after the /, the about us, has changed. And so in that instance, you then get what they call a 404 error. And you might have seen that when you're browsing websites in the past, it will say 404 page not found. If Google starts seeing lots of those, it really doesn't like it. And it will then start kind of burying those results further down the line. So there is a process that you can put in place, and a way that you can set up redirects. They're called 301s. It's a different type of redirect called 301. You can set those up in such a way that it essentially redirects them to the right page via what was previously the old page. And Google's fine with that. It just needs to know that that change has happened so that it can over time then transfer all of the authority and the juice, if you will, from that old domain over to the new one, so that the new page then takes its place right at the top of Google. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's certainly not as simple as here's the new website that we've created sort of in isolation and off the web. Let's plug it into the old one and away we go.
It certainly can be, and if you're careful to make sure the way you structure the pages and the URLs are identical, you can get away with that. It's just something to be conscious of. That's all. It's something sure definitely to consider.
Yeah, making sure our current developers careful on that one then, because it'd be a shame to lose our position at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah. It's so competitive within search that if you can avoid losing any of that visibility, definitely avoid that. So definitely on the right track to have a chat with them early doors before you get too far into the process, I would suggest.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Okay. Well, unless anyone's got anything else, shall I draw a line under this session and leave you for 2 minutes to go grab a coffee and a drink, guys, and see you back at the next link in a couple of minutes' time?
Yeah, Ben, just a quick question. The next session, you've got a beginners and an advanced one.
Yes.
The beginners one appears to focus on e-commerce of a website. I'm only interested really in our website encouraging potential customers in picking the phone up or emailing us. So there's no real.
That's fine. In which case, you might be better off jumping on to the other session with Zaid and seeing if there's perhaps a little more value in that session for now, Chris.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
no, that's absolutely fine, buddy. From memory, there was a couple of people in the other cohort that I think were doing the other way around and wanting to do the first half with Zaid and then jump on to have a chat about some e-commerce platforms. So that's fine. I'll leave you to do that, Chris. Krishna Chand, I'll leave you for a couple of minutes to grab a drink, and I'll see you back at the other link in 2 minutes' time. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Thanks, folks.
Yeah. Thank you.